Episode 73 of the Boomtank Business Show. Hey everyone, check out boomtank.com for my 3 trademark signature programs. Life Redesign with happiness in mind for super busy professionals wanting to create more happiness and fulfillment in their lives. Life Redesign with business in mind for super busy professionals contemplating entering business. And Winning in Business for business owners and entrepreneurs struggling to shift gears and reach that next exciting level with confident visibility and correctly priced high-value business offerings. Today's episode is a Boomtank Business Show mashup. It's 3 interviews in one great episode with 2 business women and 1 cool business guy who supports business women making it happen, and they're coaching for you. Each interview is roughly 17 minutes of terrific sharing. The interviews are in the order recorded. First up, Dr. Frumi Rachel Barr. Dr. Barr authored A CEO's Secret Weapon: How to Accelerate Success. Her book was the top business book of 2012 as ranked by the ExecRanks. She talks business, women in business, women on boards, and much more. Next up, Wendy English. Wendy is an author and director of the Business Development Center in Box Elder County, Utah. Hear about these development centers nationwide and their free resources and consultants for you and your business. There are more than 1,100 SBDCs nationwide offering free individual counseling as well as low-cost business workshops. They work in partnership with the U.S. Small Business Administration. We touch on these services, and Wendy offers amazing business and life advice too. Third up, David J.P. Fisher. David has written several books, including his most recent book, Hyper-Connected Selling, Winning More Business by Leveraging Digital Influence and Creating Human Connection. We talk the entrepreneurial and business journey, the key to selling, the real insignificance of rejection, and the pure power of asking for what you want. Lots of fun and great sharing with these 3. Let's get started. 2018, copyright Boomtank Media, LLC, fully enforced.
Welcome to the Boomtank Business Show for sharp female entrepreneurs and businesswomen who are ready to shine. A show about more freedom, more income, less worries, and cutting-edge information for you to create and grow your business. From branding to social media, marketing to the latest technologies, we've got you covered. Now, here's your host, Carolyn Cole.
Interview number 1, Dr. Frumi Barr. Today's guest is Dr. Frumi Rachel Barr. She is truly an entrepreneur, having started, owned, and operated several entrepreneurial ventures prior to following her passion for guiding the success of CEOs and their teams to scale up. She lives her why, daily creating a safe environment for leaders and their teams to talk about the tough issues that matter most to build profitable and sustainable manufacturing or distribution companies. Dr. Frumi Barr always begins with culture, the competitive advantage of any company. Building ridiculously successful businesses is what it's all about. She is the author of A CEO's Secret Weapon: How to Accelerate Success. Her book was ranked the top business book of 2012 by the ExecRanks and has a foreword by her colleague Simon Sinek. He is the international author of the best-selling book Start With Why. She has an MBA and earned the doctor in her name by earning a doctorate in business. Welcome to the show, Dr. Frumi Barr.
It's such a treat to be interviewed by you. I'm looking forward to this.
Share with us, if you will, your backstory, and I'm very honored to have you on the show too, by the way.
Thank you. Well, my backstory, believe it or not, I started life as a physical therapist. We all go through several iterations, and people wonder, you went into business, you started a clock company and 2 infomercial companies, and I did all that without any business education. It all came later. But what I learned as a physical therapist was how to manage time, how to motivate people, and how to problem solve. So I think those 3 things really helped me with my companies. But you know what? Growth isn't fun. You really should know what you're doing. So my MBA and my PhD and umpteen different certifications came later. So now I feel like I've got enough wisdom for the next half century.
Your present story, what do you do now, please?
So for the last 17 years, I've been a CEO's secret weapon in one form or another. I love to guide CEOs and the C-suite, particularly of manufacturing and distribution companies, with a sprinkling of high tech too. And I concentrate on 3 elements. First of all, culture, because people is at the root of everything. Second of all, strategy. So if a company is stuck or has flat revenue, it's usually time to change their strategy. Next is execution. And in execution, there are meeting cadences which are necessary to foster communication and momentum. And with the right execution, you can drive profit to the bottom line. So sometimes CEOs get really excited. They've gone, let's say, from 25 million to 35 million, but their bank isn't terribly impressed because their bank is putting in often more money than the company. So really being conscious of driving profit to the bottom line is very important, and that's what execution's all about. So that's what I do now. I'm that guide and hold people accountable, hold their feet to the fire.
You're the whole package. That's wonderful. What did having 3 startups teach you, and how are you using that knowledge now?
Okay. Well, first of all, I guess this is no surprise considering my book and my association with Simon in the past, is knowing why you and your company exists is the key to overcoming all the challenges that confront a startup or any company for that matter. And it's not just a one-time thing. It's really communicating that message. As you grow, you have to motivate people, inspire a productive team. And I'll give you a little example. Imagine if you're walking into a manufacturing company and you see people on an assembly line putting a rectangle on a rectangular box. And you ask the first person, so what are you doing? That person might say, oh, I'm just putting this glass front on this box. Well, that's not very inspiring. But what if the person said to you, with every door I put on an incubator, I'm saving a baby's life? Isn't that much more stimulating, motivating?
Much more powerful, yes.
That's knowing your why, and that's having everyone in your company be able to say why you do what you do.
With your startups, you went through obviously all the growth pains of having a startup, having your own business, those kinds of things. When you were in business, what made you decide to go help the larger businesses and those who run them? What caused that leap? How'd you get there?
You know, in the beginning, I was very shy, so I wasn't comfortable doing that. It kind of evolved over time. You know, so initially I was just doing executive coaching one-on-one, but then I found that really in order to make a difference in a company, it takes more than just working with the CEO. It takes working with the whole team. And growth can be a really wild ride without structure. So you can't give structure to just one person. You need to involve everybody in it so that everybody knows how they contribute and how the priorities that they choose are supported by other people within a company. So whatever you do with the C-suite has to cascade down. And I really get charged up by doing that. Because in most companies, when you start off with an interview to find out what's going on in the culture, the thing you hear over and over again is lack of communication. It's always about lack of communication. So if you can install those structures that allow for communication, whether it's daily huddles, weekly meetings, monthly meetings, quarterly priority setting, that's what really makes the difference. We all want to make a difference, right?
Absolutely.
So we have to grow into what makes the difference.
So there you are, and you've been in the C-suite with the top executives in top companies, and now the question is profits and scaling. And you are a growth and scale expert. You help them with all those pieces in addition to cultural pieces, etc. What differences do you see between men and women in the workplaces where you go in terms of their attitude towards scaling and their approach to it?
Well, I wish it weren't true, but women are very often reluctant to invest in the help they need. Whether it's hiring a coach or a growth expert, women tend to look at spending money more as expenses than investments, whereas men will just not hesitate in hiring a coach. I mean, men have coaches for all kinds of things. I think that's one thing that's really true. And often women don't ask for where they want to go. So I'll give you an example. I was working with a very large financial institution with someone who was the head of IT. And I did a 360 feedback on her, and I was asking some of her peers about, and some of her supervisors about her. And one of them said to me, you know, she'll never go higher because she doesn't ask. She doesn't say, how can I be part of the C-suite? So she was one level below. And he did me a big favor because that was part of the roadmap. Women don't ask. They think that people are going to recognize that they're doing a fantastic job and that they should just sit back and wait for someone to promote them. You really have to say, what does it take to go to the next level? And that particular person actually did and is now in the C-suite. So I'm very proud of that.
this is such a platinum tip. Men in their world know that's a step to take. Women don't know they are supposed to be asking for that. The language for men in business, especially at the C-suite level, is, hey, you want to be part of the team? Tell us. Women don't necessarily know that because they're not part of those conversations. That's what I think. What do you think?
Well, I think that's true. So, for example, if you want to give a woman a promotion and she has an office and you're offering a corner office, a woman will very often say, you know what, my office is just fine. Well, that's not what a man would do. A man would want that corner office, right? A man would walk into the boardroom and just sit at the head of the table. Women often walk in wondering where they should. And you could be a leader from any seat at the table. So I think it's time to step up. Don't you?
Well, without question. I mean, and I think that's happening, and it's not just in business. It's in politics. It's in social reform. It's in any cause that's near and dear, and that's one of my passions, and it's yours too. It's really leveling the playing field to create these opportunities, but you have to seize them. For men, they call it ambition. I don't know what they call it for women, and ambition is not a bad word, and I think women need to step into that and embrace the fact that they're here to achieve just as much. And I say this repeatedly. When babies are born, they're not stamped on the forehead, worthy, unworthy, worthy, unworthy. That doesn't happen. Half of the globe, we have to understand that that's really dire still. In the Western world, in theory, babies, according to gender, aren't stamped worthy, unworthy, worthy, unworthy. You know, you can make your way. So I do believe it is changing. I do love this approach about stepping up and stepping into it. And why not? What do you have to lose? Take a big swing in life. You know, you're not going to regret taking that swing and going for it, right?
Right. And all you have to do is ask, what is the path to get there? What do I need to do to get to the next level? Someone will tell you. There's a whole movement, for example, to place more women on boards. I believe one of the groups is Women on Boards 2020. Well, 20% has now been achieved. Even though that sounds like a small amount, if we've only been voting for 100 years, and women have only had, or families have only had dual incomes probably for the last 30 years, yeah, I think we've come a long way in the last 100 years. Now we can start accelerating it. Just needs to pick up some momentum. Always good to look for a mentor. I think that's one of the big things for women, to seek mentors. They could be women, they could be men, but look at the level up or 2 levels up and say, I want to learn from you. And that's the way, really, it's having a mentor and an inside advocate that's going to get people to the next level.
All right, let's talk about your book. How exciting. I'll repeat it again. A CEO's Secret Weapon, How to Accelerate Success. When you wrote the book, did you know what it would do for your career?
You know, when I first started writing the book, I thought that I would be writing about being lonely at the top. So I decided to speak to CEOs around the world and ask them if they were lonely at the top. And what I heard was, half of them said that they weren't lonely because they were in peer groups. And the other half said that they were lonely and they wished they were in peer groups, but they lived kind of remotely, you know, like 2 hours out of Dublin or 2 hours out of Boston, and they just didn't have the time. But I asked another question, and that was the question that was the key to my book. And the question was, what's your biggest challenge at this time? Speaking to 50 CEOs, I can tell you I heard 40 different challenges. And I distilled those challenges into 10 chapters. And the engine that helps people overcome all those challenges is really knowing what their why was. And so that's how I wrote the book. If reading the book for any CEO, I'm sure they'll find their challenge in there and they'll know how to overcome it. And I was very lucky to have Simon Sinek write the foreword. Not only did he write Start With Why, he also wrote Leaders Eat Last, and that was a terrific support. I don't think you write a book anymore to make money on the book. I mean, I heard a statistic that the average book makes about $7,500. I think you really write a book now as a calling card. It's kind of like the best form of business card. It's a calling card for speaking as well, for congealing your thoughts, for really putting on paper your philosophy, your point of view. And I think that's what writing a book is more now, because there's 300,000 books written a year. You can self-publish. So how will anybody find your book in that melee of books? So I think I think it's more as a calling card and as a demonstration of expertise.
And it separates you from the common population because not everybody writes a book. That is a staggering number, 300,000, but still, when given the world population, you're still in the top 1 percentile, and you've published.
Oh, that's true.
Yeah. The other thing that I've heard is that all authors are speakers from the very point you just said, which is if you write a book, you're going to have to go talk about it or nobody's going to know about it for the exact reasons you just spoke to, right?
Well, that's interesting. I have a mentor myself. My mentor is John P. Strzelecki, and he wrote a book called The Why Cafe. So that was kind of how I got indoctrinated into the whole why movement before I met Simon Sinek. And when he wrote that book, he had no intention of being a speaker, but people started asking him to speak about it. It's actually translated into over 20 languages, and it's been the #1 book in Germany for over 3 years. As a result of that, and people started to ask him to speak, he came up with this idea of the Big 5 for life. And the Big 5 for life are those 5 things you want to do, see, or experience in your life so that your life will be a success, however you define it, not as your mother would or somebody else would. And so he ended up writing a second book called The Big 5 for Life, and then The Big 5 for Life continued. So that's how you can evolve from being a thinker to an author to a speaker.
What kinds of things are you working on now?
Given we just talked about ExecRank, I'll share with you that one of the things I'm working on now is, as a result of this whole Women on Boards initiative, I decided to join an organization that actually recruits women for boards, and I'm a rare woman to have both manufacturing and distribution experience. What I found was that ExecRank actually is a recruiting organization for boards. How weird is that? And I had no idea. I kept thinking, I've heard that name before. And so I Googled it, and I Googled further to see if my book was by the same organization, and guess what it is. So what I'm working on now, I work with 2 startups. Both are manufacturing companies. One has got a really strong tech bent as well. And what it is, it's an open platform to monitor pets and ranch animals. So imagine like a Fitbit for pets. It'll measure everything from when a cow is ready for fertilization. It'll monitor who's fed the cat, so the cat doesn't con you into another meal. It'll tell you, protect the animal from perimeters, let's say, or GPS. It can track pets as well. So even when the fires were going on in Sonoma, this particular tracker would still track pets. It's called Scholar. It's a smart collar. It's an open platform. It's a fabulous company, and they just actually won the Women in Tech Amplify contest. Out of 300 women, the CEO, Lisa Tamayo, actually won the top pitch, which is fantastic. So that's a startup, and I'm involved in that startup. I'm also involved in another one that has a revolutionary fastener for roofing and siding. But the rest of the companies that I prefer to work with are all mid-market manufacturers and distributors. It's just, I have this strong entrepreneurial nature myself, so I have to have a couple of startups at any given time.
How can people find you, and how can you help?
Okay, so how can people find me? They can go to www.scaling4growth.com. They can call me at 949-394-9201. They can write me an email at Dr. Frumi, Frumi, at scalingforgrowth.com. And how I can help? Well, I'd love to be on some fabulous boards and contribute to that. And I would love to work with more CEOs and their teams. It doesn't matter how many clients you have. There's always room for one special additional client.
Thank you so much for being on the show. This was terrific today. I appreciate the insights. I look forward to having you back on in the future.
Thank you.
That was a wonderful interview with Dr. Frumi Barr. Next up, Wendy English. Today's guest is Wendy English. She is director of the Small Business Development Center in Box Elder County, Utah. She is an author, business mentor, and coach. Her books include Young Women Bouncing Back, The Power of Complexity, The Power of Change. She is the mother of 5 adult children who bring endless love and amazement. Welcome to the show, Wendy. It's an absolute pleasure to have you.
It's so good to be here. Thank you for the opportunity, Carolyn.
Yeah, and it's our opportunity too, and thank you for coming on the show because you are, as I said in the introduction, director of the Small Business Development Center in Box Elder County, Utah. A lot of the sharp female entrepreneurs and cool guys who support them, who are listening today, may wonder what is the Small Business Development Center. And you shared with me that these are available statewide. Please tell us more about these Small Business Development Centers. I know that they offer free services according to our pre-chat, which is amazing. They also offer online and online business help. So what else can you share with us about business development centers nationwide?
I'm really excited to talk about the Small Business Development Centers because they are an awesome service that is very underutilized. I think that the thing that for entrepreneurs that they do the best is that they are a mentor and a coach and a cheerleader for your small business as you're getting it started. I have some clients that text or call me every day, and I don't mind. I'm excited and grateful for the opportunity to work with them. And I'm able to help them through not only the business roadblocks, but the emotional and mental roadblocks that everyone hits when you're starting a small business. It's a joyful but rocky road.
How does someone find the Business Development Center for their state?
You can go on to America's SBDC.org. So there's 2 S's in the middle, America's SBDC.org. And you can learn more about what the SBDCs do. And also on the bottom left-hand corner, there's a place to find your SBDC.
Perfect. And I'll have links to everything that we talk about link-wise in the show notes over on boomtank.com for this episode. In the pre-chat, you were discussing that the small business development centers will marshal the resources for bank loans, business plans, social media marketing, basic marketing, human resources, export, import, light manufacturing, those kinds of things. So the breadth of the help offered for free to the public is pretty broad, would you say?
It really is amazing. And all of those SBDC directors or consultants have a network of their own, and so they can even introduce you to people that can take your business to the next level.
In your experience, why do some businesses succeed while others fail? What is the most important thing a business owner can do right?
Work themselves out of a job. Let me explain what I mean by that. In our office, I tell my entrepreneurs that the best thing that they could do is to work themselves out of a job so that they're not spending 12 hours a day anymore working on their business, starting their business. Surround themselves with talent, people that they trust, that they know can carry on that particular task, and not only carry it on, but magnify it, make it better, make it greater. And as you do that, your business will be more successful than it would be if you grasped it tightly to your chest. And you will have more free time to do all of the things that you love to keep yourself a resilient person.
The core definition of entrepreneur is not someone who creates a job within their business, because you've just exchanged one job for another job, whatever that job was, right?
Yes.
The true definition of entrepreneurship is you step in and build processes, put people in place, systems in place, so that you are not there. It carries on without you, so that, yes, the dream would be while you're on vacation, your business is making money without you, right? Those kinds of things. So that's what you're speaking to, which is get back that entrepreneurial piece that entrepreneurs are missing. And that is truly the entrepreneurial dream, isn't it? And the small business dream is to work yourself out of a job.
It really is. I have one example of a cabinet shop here in Box Elder County. And during the last recession, all the other cabinet shops were going out of business, and they saw a drop in business. But what they did is they developed a software that offered their clients a way to order complex product. So a cabinet is complex. It's got trim, it's got door handles, it's got sizes. And with their product. You can go online and you can just tap each button of what you want. It's automatically invoiced. It's automatically set into QuickBooks. And what that young man did by creating that, he was the CFO. He just worked himself completely out of a job because now this product was doing all of the accounting or most of the accounting work for him. So he went out and developed a new company, a sister company that's now equally as successful as Lewis Cabinet. And they're in the process there of working themselves out of a job in that company because they have sights on something else that they want to deliver and develop. That's what Richard Branson did. That's really success. That's when an entrepreneur is really successful, is when they've worked themselves out of a job and they can go golfing. I love that client. I love their creativity. I love their willingness to let pieces go, to just let it go and trust that software is going to get it done. And they focus their talent, their creativity on creating new product, and they are killing it.
You and I discussed in the pre-chat that recognizing your weaknesses does not mean that you go take courses on them. You put a lot of hours into fixing your weaknesses because, as Gary Vaynerchuk has said and lots of other business leaders, don't play to your weaknesses. If you want to close the gap, fine, but you really should be hiring those out, delegating them, someone who really is an expert in what you're weak doing, and double down and triple down, if not quadruple down, on the things that you excel at doing. Do you agree with that?
I agree with that. I also have to say that when you do delegate it out, let them do their job. It's what they do the best. And if you micromanage it and you're overseeing it all the time and you feel like you have to hold it so tightly in your hand, you might as well not do it. You might as well not hand it out because you're still so emotionally invested in it that it's still giving you the stress that blocks your creativity for what you're good at.
There is no way one human being who is a limited resource, finite amount of hours in the day, finite amount of stamina, finite amount of just energy, period, can do every single function of a business day in and day out and still manage to have it succeed and scale. Do you agree with that?
Totally. And also when you try and do it all yourself, you're heading for a mental, spiritual breakdown.
And women, we talked about this in the pre-chat as well. Women typically wear the cape. I've got to do it all. Nobody can do it as well as me. I've got to do every single thing because that's what I do. That's what I was raised to do. What do you have to say about that, women with the cape? What would you suggest for them in their own business?
It just makes me laugh because we do all feel that way. We feel like we just need to handle it all, but it is impossible. And when we try and do it all, we do nothing well. We're grumpy at home. We're grumpy at work. We miss things. We don't have clear vision. And so we fail at everything when we try to do everything. It's better to recognize where our strengths are and go after those. And then we're happier on all fronts. We put our best face forward in every place that we are. I was talking to a young mom the other day, and she was feeling a little guilty because she has a nanny for 4 hours a day. And I remember having a housekeeper that acted as my nanny, and I loved it. I had 2 moms, and it was awesome. And I told her, maybe instead of looking at it as you're keeping your child from having you all the time, look at it as they are having the opportunity to have 2 moms in their lives that add value. You're creating a village. And I really believe that we just need to allow ourselves to be who we are.
You've studied resiliency extensively. You offer in-person and virtual workshops on resiliency and how to build resiliency to succeed in your life and in your business. Why is resiliency so important to you, Wendy?
Years ago, as a young mom, I had a mentor. Her name is Dr. Dion Dunn, and she and I walked every morning, and she was doing her doctorate in resiliency in women. And as we walked, she would talk to me about what she was researching and what she was studying. And those morning lessons that I had on resiliency, I feel like I got a master's degree in resiliency just from our walks every morning. But those taught me how to be more creative, to recognize why I got angry or why I got sad, and that I had internal control, and to be positive and optimistic. And as life has gone on, all of us face big challenges. I currently am I've been diagnosed with stage 4 lung cancer, and I am so grateful for those early walks and for my faith in God that has given me the strength now to be excited about my future and to feel like I still have a lot to give and a lot of options to create in my life.
In our conversations, you've described that as a gift because it has brought you amazing clarity of purpose. Can you talk about that for a bit?
I was one of those women that just felt like I had to do it all. I had 5 kids. They needed a perfect mom. They needed wonderful meals. They needed a clean house. I also worked, and I felt like I had to give 100%, and that I also not only wanted to give 100%, I wanted to be the best. I just wanted to be the best at what I did. And with that drive to be the best at everything that I did, in every single moment, it just completely wore me out. And the cancer is such a great gift because it helped me recognize so many of the things I thought were important before are not important. They do not matter. The kind of clothes you wear, the kind of shoes you have, the makeup you wear, the purse you carry, a lot of the relationships that you're in that you are only in because you feel like they're important to your career or to you moving up in some way. You can let go of all of that baggage and you just focus on what's important, what is really, really important. And you're able to let the rest go and enjoy every single moment because you recognize they're finite.
And that clarity of purpose really puts you in the flow where you truly belong in terms of your life and your business. Do you agree with that?
I do. I also really encourage all of the listeners today, avoid waiting until you get a life sentence. Sit down and spend some time now and go through your life and say, what is important when I'm 85 and I am looking back at my life, what are the most important things going to be? And if you're chasing something that's not important, just let it go.
Just that simple, just let it go.
Yeah, just let it go.
And we've heard about the importance of resiliency in business. In fact, the entrepreneurial journey, one of the cornerstones of it has to be resiliency, or you're not going to stay in business. That's the entrepreneurial roller coaster that Darren Hardy talks about. What is the importance of resiliency in your own words in terms of business?
Resiliency, if you're a business owner, you need resiliency because it gives you structure. It gives you strength. It gives you the soul power to accomplish and overcome all the challenges that you're going to face. If you have problems defining what your values are, those values are going to be tested every day, and you're going to waste so much time trying to define your values. If you aren't a complex person, if all you do 24 hours a day is your business and you have nothing else in your life, if you suddenly went blind or you got hit by a car and you couldn't do your business anymore, what would there be left of you? What is your complexity? And entrepreneurs that are very successful all are very complex people. They all have other interests, things that they're involved in. You look at Richard Branson, he's probably one of the most complex people that I have ever followed because he's got his skydiving and his boating and his airplanes and his rockets and his family and his faith and his creative outlets. He has all of these things that he keeps involved in all of the time, and they make his life so rich and so happy. And so he doesn't just focus on business 100% of the time. If you follow him, you'll see that he talks a lot about his family and his values. And also as an entrepreneur, you have to have internal control. You have to know who you are and be responsible for your failures, your successes, your weaknesses, your strengths. You can't say, oh, the market crashed, and so because the market crashed, my business failed. Because if you put creativity in there and think as a young entrepreneur would, you would pivot. and you would create more success from the adversity. So resiliency is very important if you want to start your own business.
The listeners can find you personally at wendyenglish.com with the Small Business Development Centers. They offer workshops and you get a mentor. Is that how that works? Is that how they can sign up for that type of help?
You can work with we call them consultants, as much as you need.
And if they have questions, they can reach out and contact you, and you can put them in contact with somebody if they have issues around that. Okay, very nice, very nice. Thank you for such great sharing today.
You're welcome. It's been so fun to be on your show, and I really appreciate you having me on. Thank you.
But you're not done yet. You're not done yet. So
I just want to know, I also have a Facebook page.
Okay, what's that?
That's Wendy J. English. Okay. And I'm on Instagram. Instagram is English Wendy J.
And what we'll do is we'll put links to everything in the show notes for you. How about that?
Perfect.
All right. Parting words, please, of business life wisdom for the listeners.
Be grateful for everything in your life that's going right and everything in your business that's going right. And spend a lot of time focusing on what is good and what is going right in your life. And when obstacles come your way, look at them as gifts. They're a gift teaching you how to be more successful. It's a little obstacle that's come your way that is saying, hey, just look at me, acknowledge this, learn this, and I will create greater success and positive emotions and attitudes in your life. And so instead of seeing our negative things that happen in our life, our trials, our tribulations, they're all gifts. They're all beautifully, wonderfully wrapped gifts to help us to achieve our potential. And so if our heart is grateful for them and we look at them with gratitude, we'll soar and we'll accomplish more in our lives than we ever would without that one particular thing.
Very good. Oh, I love that. That's so special. Sending you lots of love, prayers, and blessings. I really appreciate all the great shares. And thank you so much for coming on the show. I'll be talking about your resiliency program to everybody I think who needs it.
Oh, thank you.
That was a terrific interview with Wendy English. Next up, interview number 3, David J.P. Fisher. Today's guest is David J.P. Fisher, also known as D. Fish. He is a speaker, coach, author of 7 books, including the best-selling Hyper-Connected Selling and Networking in the 21st Century, Why Your Network Sucks and What to Do About It. Building on 20 years of experience as an entrepreneur and sales professional, he combines nuanced strategy and real-world tactics to help professionals become more effective, efficient, and happy. David's goal is to help them understand the new landscape of hyper-connected selling, where social media, networking, and old-school sales and communication skills are the key to providing value and staying relevant. He lives in Evanston, Illinois, next to a huge cemetery, which helps him appreciate the value of every day. Welcome to the show, David.
Thank you for having me.
I've decided Chicagoland people are just very, very hardy. Do you consider yourself a hardy bunch? I think you are.
I think we are indeed. In fact, I grew up in Milwaukee, so I grew up even farther north. We're pretty tough out here.
All right, David, let's begin with this. What is your backstory?
I started out as an international spy and superhero, and so my backstory. Like many people, I am an accidental entrepreneur, kind of stumbled into it. Went to school here in Evanston, actually went to Northwestern University, got a degree in history and urban studies. And when my parents asked me what I was going to do with that, I said, I have no idea. But very fortunately was given a job during school to sell. In fact, was a sales rep for a company called Cutco Cutlery. We sell the world's finest cutlery. They really are amazing. I suggest you go out and get yourself some. But was a direct sales representative for them during college, paid my way through school. After I graduated, had an opportunity to run their office here in the Chicago area, ended up interviewing thousands and thousands of people over my time there, trained over 1,500 sales reps. And it was just a great opportunity. It was intense. I was a young person really learning business in the trenches. But again, a great opportunity. And when I left that, I was kind of looking around at what I wanted to do and realized after a very short 11-month exactly stint in the corporate world, realized I was probably going to be better as an entrepreneur, and started Rockstar Consulting, which was almost 13 years ago now, and have always focused on professional development, sales development, interpersonal communication skills for professionals, as a coach, as a speaker. I started writing books, which has been a lot of fun. Do a lot of other online writing, webinars. The kind of the whole professional development mix these days. So that's kind of where I come from. I would almost call it hardcore sales and entrepreneurship background.
And you have also a musical background. You're a musician, right? You're a drummer?
I am a drummer. In fact, the reason I called my company Rockstar Consulting was because if I couldn't be a real rock star, I had to pretend to be one. And I was a drummer in a band here in Chicago for many years. Got to put out some albums. In fact, that's where I picked up my nickname D Fish. I would rap sometimes, and my bandmates would jokingly call me MC D Fish, but I would have coworkers come to our shows and hear that and think it was funny, and they'd start calling me that on Monday morning at the office, and it stuck. And so pretty much everybody calls me that except for my mom and my wife. My mom tried once, and I was like, no. Please, we'll stick with David, Mom. That's fine.
What kinds of things are you working on now? I know you do big speaking engagements for large companies. You do a bunch of different things. Please describe for the listeners what it is you're working on now.
Yeah, so a lot of what I'm doing right now is speaking and delivering the message about hyper-connected selling. That's my most recent book that just came out in May of 2017. And that's really been a lot of fun because it's given me the opportunity to dive into what I see as the evolution of the sales world. I really think that we're seeing now the profound effects that technology is having on how people buy, which is really affecting how we have to engage and influence our prospects, our customers, our clients. And that's been a blast. So I do a lot of speaking. I have a very strong background in social media, especially LinkedIn, and using it for business. So I do also a lot of trainings around that, sometimes very tactical if that's what organizations need, helping people get that profile that looks great, helping people engage with their pipeline and their networks, which is fantastic. And I still do a lot of networking speaking, I should say, where organizations will have me come in and help teach how to actually build professional relationships that people can leverage and help move their career forward. So that's still a lot of where my time and energy is spent. I've always been a coach. I started out as one, and so I still have a lot of one-on-one clients. I especially work with small business owners and entrepreneurs kind of around not only the sales piece, but a lot of times we realize that if you want to work on the sales piece, you have to work on the overall business itself and the interpersonal skills and sometimes the delegation skills and the management skills. It's all connected, right? So that's where I'm putting a lot of my attention. And yes, there might be another book or two in the works because I think I might have a problem. I might have to find a support group because I just keep writing these books, but it's been a lot of fun.
What is the biggest thing you have learned on your entrepreneurial journey?
Can I give you 19 or 25? Because it's hard to boil it down to one. But I would say probably the biggest thing that I've learned as an entrepreneur, and I've loved the entrepreneurial journey. I tell people it all the time that it's a great opportunity. There's also an opportunity to have like the worst boss in the world, right? I unfortunately have a boss that you can't lie to ever. What I have really found is great about being an entrepreneur or being in charge of your own quote unquote destiny is that it gives you the opportunity to learn about yourself. I mean, I think it's not just about the entrepreneurial journey, it's about the human journey. And I think that when you do have this opportunity, when you put yourself in a place where you are responsible for what you create and what you do in the world, I tell this to my wife all the time. Half of my job is making me do things because nobody's going to be mad if I sleep in. Nobody's going to fire me if I don't hit my numbers for the year. So I have to make sure I'm doing it. And that level of responsibility is kind of hard to find in a lot of our jobs. We outsource the responsibility to somebody else, the accountability. And so what happens, I think, is when you are out on your own, again, I've spent most of my adult life, as an entrepreneur, it really is just a powerful learning exercise. And what I've learned is actually something I talk about in my first networking book, is that to become a better professional, you have to become a better person. And so I think a lot of people flip that. They think, well, if I become a really successful professional, all the parts of my life will be taken care of. I'll be making the money. I'll have the great relationships. I'll have the time to take care of my health. I'll have the ability to travel, XYZ, whatever they think they want. What I've really learned is that you've got to put things in the right order. You've got to take care of yourself first, and you've got to work on who you are as a person first, and then all of the great business things happen. But you can't fake that. And people try it all the time. And, we see the people who have the success, or what looks like the success on the outside, but, you get to know them, and their marriage is failing, their health is horrible, they're just miserable people. And, man, life is too short for that. I do live next door to a cemetery, so I don't want to waste any time with that kind of stuff.
What is the number one key to sales, and what do you do with no's and or rejections?
Oh, that's a great question. The number one key to sales, and we could come up with a bunch of different things that are important. I think the ability to build trust, the ability to build a relationship, really the ability to have that one-on-one interpersonal relationship is so critical. But I go back to something that I was taught by a mentor really early on. And what he really taught me was the key to selling, and really the key to influencing, is the ability to ask. And the ability to ask not in a way that's trying to pressure somebody or that's trying to force somebody into doing something. I think most people have the wrong opinion of what selling is, especially entrepreneurs, business owners, professional service providers who want to not be that aggressive salesperson. But the biggest thing is about sales is that you're trying to help somebody solve a problem. And what it comes down to is eventually you have to ask them, can I help you solve your problem? And when you figure that out, by the way, this mentor of mine, we used to go out to eat, and he, to lunch or even to dinner, and he would always ask for free dessert. And I was like, what are you doing? Why are you asking for free dessert? He said, the only thing they can say is no, right? And that's not going to hurt me. If they say no, then I'll just buy a dessert, but they might say yes. And it was amazing. He didn't always get free dessert, but he got some free desserts. And I learned, I'm like, you can ask. You put a smile on your face. You do it, from a positive place. You just ask. The worst they can say is no. And that gets to that point of what do you do with those no's or rejections? It's hard, but one of the biggest things you have to do is learn that it's not about you. A no or rejection is not personal. And it's tough because as humans, we're wired to think that no is a rejection of self. That's why we stay away from it. So I actually looked at my baby book once that my parents kept. My first word was no. So why was my first word no? Because guess what I heard all the time. And so we're wired very young to stay away from that rejection because we don't want to lose the love and the support of our family. Again, we're too young to even think about it that way. But when you're an adult, when you can be rational and you can go, hey, I'm going to, offer my services to this person. I'm going to ask them if they'd like to hire me. I'd like to ask them if they'd like to buy my product. We often conflate that no with an attack on our own, inner being and an inner self. The moment you can start to flip that and go, you know what? If they tell me no, that's totally all right. It's not about me. It's not personal. I can just move on to the next opportunity. That's really, I think, one of the only ways that you can deal with it. Sometimes it's still going to sting, and I've been in sales my entire life, and sometimes I still hate hearing no. It doesn't ever go away completely, but the more and more you can really put it in its proper place, if you can have the right perspective on what that no is, things it opens up so many opportunities.
Can you share with us your thoughts on how women need to ask more and what you're seeing? Because that was a large difference between men and women in terms of making sales, or at least asking for sales, that you highlighted for me.
Yeah, that's so important. And I really do think that this is unfortunately a socialization issue, right? It's something in our society. It's something that's taught to the genders early on. So it's not going to be something we're not going to just snap our fingers and get rid of it, unfortunately. But what I do think is that, especially, if you're a female professional understand that there might be some negative baggage in your mind that's not about you, that doesn't serve you anymore. And what I really think it can be valuable, by the way. And I just had this conversation recently where a friend of mine was running a great digital advertising agency. She just moved to a new city. She was like, I think that there's an opportunity for a great professional networking group to be here, but she goes, I feel kind of arrogant saying that I should be the ringleader. And I had to stop her and look at her and go like, no, you're awesome. Be the ringleader. Walk into, quote unquote, the room and say, hey, I think this is a great thing that all of you guys should be involved with. Let's do this. And so sometimes it's just being cognizant of that negative self-talk or that putting yourself down and getting used to the idea. So we talked about some of the strengths of relationship building that tend to come along for women. One of the negatives, right? All of our weaknesses are strengths magnified. So one of the weaknesses that could lead to is like worrying too much about what people think, right? Because you do have such a focus on relationships. I do think it's powerful to just get used to asking, practice. I was speaking with a coaching client recently, and she's working on this exact issue. And I said, I want you to put yourself in 3 awkward conversations a day. And she was like, that's going to be really hard. I'm like, yes. But if you do that for a couple weeks, they're no longer awkward, right? You get used to it. And so, I mean, that's a very practical way of doing it. And by the way, when I talk about awkward conversations, these are just, the places where she knows she should, ask for a sale, or she should offer a service that she has that she normally wouldn't, to do that, like to actually make that ask. And even if she hears no, that's fine. I think of the Timothy Ferriss book, 4-Hour Work Week, his old book. I read it when I was first getting started as a professional. And one of the things that he had in there was every day you should go and ask somebody for something, which was very similar as a TED Talk by Jia Zhang, 100 Days of Rejection. He's like, I wanted to go out and get rejected for 100 days to teach myself it's not going to kill me. And that's powerful for anybody, male, female, other, doesn't matter.
Your website is davidjpfisher.com, and I'm going to have a link to all the things that we've talked about in this interview in the show notes over at boomtank.com. You also were gracious enough to prepare a link especially for the Boomtank Business Show listeners, and that's davidjpfisher.com/podcast/Boomtank, and you have links there to your books and other resources, so I appreciate that. Otherwise, how can listeners find you, and how can you help?
Absolutely. The best place is on that landing page that we've created for everybody. What's nice there is you can find links to my books, but also I do have one of my reports that I've written, which is 17 ways that you can supercharge. I always forget. It's like how to supercharge your network. Basically what it boils down to is a bunch of ways that you can basically spend 5 minutes and have a better network, you can have better relationships. I'm actually really proud of it. It's a really cool resource. I really suggest you get that. But you can find me on LinkedIn, linkedin.com/in/IamDfish, IAMDFISH. I'm on Twitter, DFishRockstar. But just, feel free to reach out to me. More than happy to talk to you. If you have any questions about social media, about selling, if you're looking for a speaker to come in and help your organization with the new sales world and relationship building, always willing to help. And I do also, as I mentioned, do a lot of coaching one-on-one with business owners and entrepreneurs. So always happy to talk with somebody who wants to get better and become a rock star.
Thank you so much for joining us today. It's been a real pleasure. Just great stuff, and I can't thank you enough.
Thank you so much for having me.
Big thanks to all 3 of my guests, Dr. Frumi Barr, Wendy English, and David J.P. Fisher. You can find all links they mentioned in the show notes for episode 73 on boomtank.com. Let's connect on LinkedIn and Instagram. I'm Carolyn Cole, live on both platforms. And thank you for tuning in to the Boomtank Business Show. I so appreciate you listening, and you know I do. If you like the show, please leave a 5-star rating and some nice comments on iTunes, or subscribe on the free Stitcher podcast podcast listening app for Android users or Google Play. And tell a friend. Join Boomtank's email list at boomtank.com and download my free ebook, The Best Online Tools to Grow Your Business Now, containing over 75 plus hot links to grow your business. Be sure to check out my coaching and consulting tab on boomtank.com for my coaching and consulting services, and the speaking tab to book me as your next professional speaker or featured guest. And like Boomtank's business page at facebook.com/The Boomtank to join and watch my live streams. Until next time, free your mind, unleash your spirit, build your life, create your business. It really is your show. See you right here on the next episode.
Thank you for tuning in to the Daily Boomtank Business Show. Go to boomtank.com and get our exclusive tips and ideas to help you achieve success. It is time for you to launch your dream business and life now.